Hello, everybody. Welcome to From the Logo. It's been a big week in the NBA and a big week in our group text chain, talking about some of the big trades going on this week. So, Kirby, why don't you start us off and tell us what has stood out to you this week in terms of trades or moves?
Can I just tee it up and knock it out of the park for that one? The one that stood out for me was Jonas Valanciunas to the Kings, obviously. The big
Obviously.
news, the shocking move around the league that everyone cannot stop talking about. No, it's Luka Doncic to the Lakers. Colton, you texted us, you broke that to us, and I immediately ran to Riley and said, "Did you see what happened? What the fuck just occurred?" And, I was shocked and kind of sick a little bit when I first heard about it, just because I am not a Lakers fan. But the more I thought about it, the more it's funny, like my initial reaction was, oh my God, they got totally fleeced. And then after I thought about it for like the next hour and I was like, maybe the move isn't as crazy as it sounded. And then the last couple days, everyone's reaction to it. The big difference is the future, you know, the future of the team, basically. When it comes to like win now, I sort of see the move that at least that Dallas was thinking about making, that trying to get a bunch of size and a bunch of defense and trying to compete. I don't think they're probably going to win a championship with that team as constructed, but Luka's only 25 years old. He would have figured it out eventually. The dude would have won a championship eventually in Dallas if they got the right pairing of players around him. And I think he'll probably win a championship in LA. It's just trading away a generational guy at 25 years old. I mean, I can't really say much more than has already been said. It's just a pretty insane move. Um, and I don't think like it's not like Dallas is now gonna win a championship or anything with that team. So the move overall, I didn't really get it from Dallas's perspective. I think most people feel that way. There's all the excuses that they use about him being out of shape or whatever. But I mean, the dude averages like 38 and 8, and he was in the NBA Finals last year. So I don't know. All those excuses kind of fall flat to me.
Look at the guy's record. Look at the guy's climb. Look at his team every year. Where do they finish in the standings, no matter what, in the playoffs? I'm about to cough, so I'm gonna have to mute. But uh, here's the craziest part about this to me, and I guess it's not so crazy. The stupid Lakers. I don't care how their management, they could be a piece of wood. It could just be their general manager could be a piece of a two by four in your shed. They could just be sitting there in your shed. They will luck into a superstar because of the team that they are. It doesn't matter what they do because of the team that they are. Things will fall into their lap. I'm not saying Rob Pelinka did not schmooze his way because of his relationship with the Dallas GM. I'm not saying he didn't get there by using his relationship, but some of the stuff that was put out there in the interview is just absurd to me that they didn't canvass the league and get a better deal. I guess they wanted Anthony Davis, but here's the thing. Anthony Davis is 7 years older than Luca. Okay. So take that into account right there as far as the sticker price for the value. Not only is he 7 years older, he's also injury prone. He's more injury prone than Luca. Luca plays through injuries more than Anthony Davis and carries teams farther than Anthony Davis ever did by himself. Okay, so that's two knocks against Anthony Davis that Luca has done far better than Anthony Davis ever did by himself. So you take both of those things into account right there, and they didn't get both of the Lakers' first round picks. How? How did they not even get both of their first or Dalton Necht? How did
Yeah,
they
or
not get
connect.
that? That's insane. That's almost like rigging of the league levels of how did they not do that? And then they came out and said all this negative stuff about Luca. Luca's going to drop 100 on them in the return game to Dallas, by the way. And then they were like, yeah, we had no idea it was going to be this bad of a reaction from Dallas fans. How did you not? Are you serious? How did you not have that kind of a think they would have that kind of reaction? He's their homegrown, well, homegrown, home drafted star that was going to replace Dirk, and he's been in the Western Conference Finals twice and the finals already. He's
Last year.
25 in his prime, and he wasn't going to not sign a supermax. How stupid.
It's a generational fumble, a generational fail, and probably one of the worst executed trades that we've seen in our entire lifetimes. And I really don't feel like I'm overstating it. I feel they undervalued Luca, they overvalued AD, and they didn't even get enough for Luca. I mean, like we've heard the rumors swirling around that the original offer included Connect and two firsts, and then basically Palinka just fleeced them and talked them down to what they ended up getting, because of like these concerns about Luca's health or whatever. But I mean, I'm going to quote somebody who I never thought I would quote on this podcast, Mr. Markeith Morris. Is that a senior? Is he a senior? But I think he said
I
it
think that's
best.
the other one.
I think so. When he said that he's one of the only guys I've ever seen who can drop 30, 15, and 10 like it's nothing. And if he's out of shape, able to do that, I don't know what in shape is. And that's exactly right. And then Shaq said something very similar, saying that, Fat Luca is better than 99.9% of guards in the league. I mean, it's true. Like, and then you also look at the guy right now. I mean, all the pictures we were seeing of Luca in LA, the guy is not that overweight or out of shape. He looks pretty good right now, actually. So yeah, I mean, it was a situation where Dallas basically got fleeced by a better, smarter, more talented GM, apparently. And I've never been like the hugest Palinka guy or anything, but apparently he pulled this one off really well. And they didn't even go out to the league and try to shop him around. Apparently, they contacted maybe one other team, although that's even kind of in dispute. It may have been none. And like apparently all the other GMs in the league are pissed. They're like, we weren't even given an opportunity to bid. And they could have driven the price way up. Instead, they got AD, which I'm, as you know, not a big AD fan. I mean, he's a good player in the right situation, but he's not dependable or consistent. And he's definitely not an upgrade from Luka Doncic.
I was just looking I Googled Nico Harrison, the Dallas GM, and there's already rumors that he's like 1 foot out the door, like wants to resign, doesn't even want to be in Dallas anymore. Oh, what a shocker.
Did you hear
Uh,
about the text conversation between Luca and Mark Cuban?
no,
Apparently, Luca texted him and just said, "I'm confused," and Mark Cuban said, "That makes two of us." And Cuban's not the majority owner anymore, but that's a good way to lose the fans, right? I mean, I think Mark Cuban is still the face of the team and the beloved owner of the team, whether he's the majority or not. And if he's speaking for the fans here, saying, "I don't know what the hell just happened either," that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
today, the Golden State Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler. They got him for kinda scraps, honestly. I think the Warriors came out much better on that deal. They didn't have to give up Kaminga. They did give up a protected first. But I mean the rest of the guys that they got, nothing really that impressive in my opinion. Well, I don't think Jimmy's gonna like necessarily put Golden State over the top and make them a real competitor. And obviously they did have to sign him to a 2-year deal. But I think it was a win for Golden State. What do you guys think?
I mean, yes, I agree with that in a sense. They also had to sign Jimmy to a 2-year extension. In the last year of his extension, Jimmy Butler will be making about 45% of the cap at 37. And I'm already seeing signs of his massive decline. He's already Mr. Day to Day, never play. anyway, right? He if he doesn't like a situation, he's going to tank it. During the regular season, he has the stretches where he has great stretches and then he kind of lulls. In the playoffs, that's where it matters, but are they going to make the playoffs? We'll see how he fits with Draymond. They're not seamless fits, in my opinion. They both kind of like the ball, and neither of them are like lights out shooters from deep. I don't know. I do think that Golden State, obviously is getting the best player in the deal, but I don't love it going forward, and I don't think it makes them contenders. I
The
could be
only thing I'll say is like it just doesn't feel like they had to mortgage much of their future. It's like a 2-year deal. They had to give up a protected first rounder. No, none of the other players were like, anything that they could base the rest of their franchise on. And it feels like they had to do something for Curry. He's like third, even though he didn't, he told them he didn't want them to, but still, it's like both of those guys are about 35. It sort of feels like it's just sort of a for Curry, moving forward. And I agree. I don't think it necessarily makes them contenders, but I do think it maybe kind of opens the door just a touch for them to be competitive within the next like 2 years. And they didn't really have to not being able to hold on to Kaminga was big in my opinion with this trade.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I think that you make some really good points there, and that they didn't have to give up everything, and they give Curry a chance because Curry, he was yeah, what they had going, he wasn't going to be even making a playoff run, anytime soon. I feel like Butler, if he plays, I mean, do we know if he's like willing to play? I guess he is because he's signing a 2-year extension. So he must be okay with going to Golden State, even though he's been like bitching and moaning about the idea of anything other than Phoenix for some reason. Obviously, Golden State's first choice was apparently KD. Durant didn't want to go, so they ended up having to make this switch over to Butler. So I think that really that alone kind of speaks to exactly what you're saying, that they were just trying to get someone for Curry to play with. KD first, that didn't work. Then we'll go to Jimmy as a backup option. Yeah, I did see a headline that kind of made me laugh. The idea that Curry, Butler, and Draymond are the new big three in the Bay, and I mean, it's not a big three. It's not a big three. It's two aging,
An old
extremely
three.
good players, and then Draymond, who, has obviously been a piece on tons of great teams, but he's not a big anything except maybe being an
also.
asshole.
I just want to give a shout out to Bradley Beal for not waiving his no
I
trade
know.
clause. Funniest contract in the league. He's like, nah, I just want to hang in Phoenix. I don't care. I'm in a warm weather place. That's all I care about. Funniest thing ever.
I know it's he is kind of tanking their chances. Yeah, we noticed tonight that KD is out and they were competitive in the first half, although that now they're getting destroyed. But it's a funny situation in Phoenix where like it doesn't really matter if two or three of their stars are playing, like they're gonna look the same because
And the
it just
Rockets have their pick. So if they miss the playoffs, the Rockets, the rich get richer. Just letting everybody know.
And the
well we
Blazers
could
just
talk
beat him
about
twice.
De'Aaron Fox and some of these other trades, but I think let's talk about what we all really want to talk about, and that's the Blazers going 9-1 in the last 10 games. They're on a win streak. They're in win now mode, like I told you guys last week. They're holding all their players, they're holding all their cards, they're going for a championship this year. They've won 5 in a row. Kamara and Scoot just looking dominant. Lob City out there, Aiton getting 20 and 20 games. It suddenly is all click. Chauncey Billups ball coming down. The defensive scheme is finally clicking for him. Number one defense in the league the last 10 games. Um, so with all that being said, with them clicking at this time and looking so good, and the team really, like Scoot said, they're together like white on rice. The chemistry's high. The locker room's tight. What moves are made here tonight with we got a few more hours of the trade deadline before the trade deadline comes. Do any moves get made? Or do they stand put and try to make a run at a play-in spot?
Well, I have a couple deals that we can maybe look at, and I think that, in my opinion, this is probably going to make it more like one player or nothing. And I think that if it happens, they're going to be more simple deals just because of how this is going to come together. I think Jeremy Grant has now moved to the least likely player to get moved because of how he's been playing lately. It just not has not been standing out at all enough. I think that the other guys all have a lot higher chance to get moved, that being Robert Williams, Anthony Simons, and the like there. Even Ayton could get moved in the right deal, just the team that finds him. I don't think he's going to get moved, but Robert Williams obviously being the most likely to get moved. But I think that they will end up standing pat because of just this momentum swell that they've had. I wanted this podcast for the Blazers section should be all positive because it's been fun to watch. Like being
Definitely.
engaged in Blazer games again and again, this is why you go young. When you start seeing your young core coming together and building, what do we remember, Kirby, from when we were first starting to talk and hang out together? What was brewing was the Brandon Roy, LaMarcus,
Travis Outlaw,
Travis Outlaw,
Martell Webster.
the fun time of that era. So this is kind of what reminds me of that. This is that time when you start percolating a little bit with the young core. And before we start talking about the trades, Riley, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I was just gonna say, like, really, all I have to say is just like, what are you doing to it? What are you doing? You're killing us here. We've just spent the last like 6 months railing on getting rid of all the, 25 plus year olds. And like I can't believe that I'm feeling my mind get changed. And I know that a lot of it's recency bias, a lot of it's just getting caught up in the groundswell. But at the same time, 10 games is like an eighth of the season. It's like a big chunk. It's a good sample size of an NBA season. And I also just the trajectory generally has been going up over the course of the year. And yeah, I mean, you know me, I've said more bad stuff about DeAndre Ayton than probably anyone on YouTube. And yet, like, I am so excited watching him play center finally. It's like what we've been asking for 2, 3 years. I think it's what Phoenix fans were asking for, 3 or 4 years before that. The guy is crashing the boards. He's crashing to the hoop and catching lobs and finishing. He's playing really good defense down low. He's setting picks and moving to the hoop. It's incredible. I can't believe that I'm suddenly a DeAndre Ayton fan after all this, but I am. Like, and he's like the chemistry, like Kirby said, is really good. He seems to be gelling with the team, and the guy is just not that old. And suddenly I start envisioning this world where sure being like 4 years older or whatever than Anthony and Scoot, but like who cares really? Like that's not that a totally different timeline. I don't know. I think we're probably staying put to see how the rest of this season goes. I don't see anything really changing most likely, and I'm not that mad at it because what I'm seeing is development from the young guys and development and maturity from some of the more veteran guys who really aren't even that old either. I kind of want to see what happens this season.
I have one more thing to say before you bring up the trades, and it's basically that, in my opinion, the guys that we've said all year, they're still on the block for me.
yeah,
Namely Simons, Grant, and Time Lord. I think Aiton, it might not be the time to move on from him just because of the lack of any other center option on the Blazers right now. Klingon is just not, he can't play 48 minutes,
he's not
and
ready.
it's not, again, it's not like, but I do have mixed feelings about that because maybe Aiton's trade value is at an all-time high right now, and it's not like, you know, maybe it's not a win now season for the Blazers, but like we've talked about before a lot, it's good to have this young culture win games. And Aiton, I think keeping him on board, they have a chance to win a lot more games, even if they're not, going to make a deep playoff run or anything, because the chances, they're not going to be able to get Cooper Flag either. So it's sort of, I would say those guys are on the trade block, but because of how well they played and how well this team's gelled, the asking price is much higher than it was a few weeks ago, I think, which can be kind of looked at as a win-win. Like if some team really wants Simons or Grant and is willing to give a really decent package full of the kinds of assets that the Blazers really need, then I still say make that move. But if there's it's just trap out there, I don't really see that whole like clear the runway thing that we've been talking about all year as really being worth it because they're really playing well together right now. Like Scoot and Simons are out there balling together, taking turns, coming off the pick and roll. Simons hitting the shots, lobbing, throwing a lot of passes. Scoot having a ton of success on the pick and roll and with the lob. So that kind of three guard combo, the three guard lineup that we love is it kind of works. Has looked a lot better lately because of they play more defense, and then you have guys that are obviously elite defensive players like Mara and Denny out there that really changed the vibe too. So it's uh it's a higher asking price for me for any of those guys, but they're still if the right deal comes along, you don't hold on to them in the face of like a ton of assets to make some run this year.
Yeah. Well,
Agreed.
let's pull up the first trade. These are all going to be like smaller deals, like I said, because I don't know if they're going to get caught up in a mega deal just because of how it's kind of been working for the Blazers lately. But if they're going to maybe trade a piece or two, this might be what it looks like. Let me pull it up. So this first one. There's been rumblings, and again, this is the team that just made the heist of the century, so you got to make them pay a little bit with their other pick that they didn't trade. This way, you get just as many first as Luca gets, right? So I don't know. That's tough. The whole value market is skewed now. But here's my thought process. If you're like, well, Robert Williams, I don't know. Is he going to get that pick? Well, Jared Vanderbilt's salary is like a 4-year deal. So you're taking on long term, and it's only 10 mil. But that kind of salary kind of adds up when you have long-term deals added to the contract. I think if the Lakers kind of go in like, all right, Robert Williams is like a potential defensive wrecking ball and he's the big that we need. Um, and we like what we've seen from him this season, and he's healthy, and he's like that piece that's going to catch lobs from LeBron and Luca. I think he would be a great fit. Like if he was fully healthy and he is healthy, I think he would be a perfect fit for them. It's just a matter of are they willing to give the first? The Blazers would take the first and then just have to sit with that little bit of salary, and that's why they get the pick. So
I think that the
Yeah.
Lakers would do this. I think that from what I've heard, this has also been in the group chat all week. It's the Lakers are going to get a center. They have to. And it's probably going to be either Robert Williams or Claxton. And they have to know that they're going to have to give up that first for either one of those guys, I think. So I'm sure that's why they wanted to keep one of the firsts from the Luka deal. I mean, obviously you always want to keep a first, but I'm sure that maybe made that a bit of a non-negotiable because they knew they needed something to go out and get a center. I think they'd probably do it. In terms of from the Blazers' perspective, I don't know. I mean, Robert Williams is kind of like our best trade piece, as I've always said. If we're going to get rid of him, I kind of hope we could also move Anthony at the same time. Um, but yeah, I would probably do it just to get that first. I think that top eight protected is probably fairly safe considering what the Lakers are heading toward. And I want a lot of picks as we go into this big loaded draft.
Do you know what the number and then LeBron means underneath their names? I'm just curious about that. Why all
there
the
there's stat. I mean, there's like advanced stats down there. I mean,
It's
there's a
it's
LeBron there's a
yeah.
LeBron stat.
yeah.
It's like an analytic that they created for this draft thing that's basically like what's the LeBron stat is like basically is it gonna get lay GM'd because he's just LeBron and can do whatever he wants. And so different players have different LeBron stats based on just like how well they're regarded around the league and stuff, I think.
Funny.
Good
Yeah,
point.
the thing with Rob is injury concerns, and so I'd probably take this deal mainly for that. I do like him, but I'm just worried that he gets hurt and they're not able to get anything for him. So I would do it.
I think I think it's just tough, like because people are gonna not want to do it for the injury value, but he would be such a perfect fit for the Lakers. Like he really would. He'd be that lob threat and he would be game changing with LeBron, Luka. Like I could see it happening. And that's why, I mentioned I texted you guys about it seems like there's some chatter about that. Let's talk about another one really quick. I do want to, touch on that Ant to Orlando. There's always that chatter out there, So if we have time, we'll talk about that. But let's talk about a different, slightly different alternate route first. So Ant has had an interesting season. I think that I don't really know where his value is anymore. Just because he had a slow start. He's come on strong. I still am not sure, depending on his value around the league. I think he's an excellent player, and like on a team like the Pistons, he'd be perfect. They need more shooting next to Cade. They still have, their young guys around him. They got Jalen Duren, and they have, why am I blanking on his name? Young point guard. But I think
Ivy.
that they need shooting. Ivy, of course, but they need shooting. They need shooting badly still. And I think Simons would fit in perfectly. And again, the real prize is the pick. Hardaway's salary is expiring, so you'd be taking salary out from the Blazers side of it. So that's another kind of little bonus there because you're not really getting a ton back in terms of that. So really, you're getting less cap going forward, and you're getting a pick out of it. So again, a pretty minor player-wise move, but I like a lot of the core that the Blazers have player-wise. So this is again the pick and cap.
Yeah, that definitely feels like the clear the runway move that we were probably jumping all over like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And right now I'm looking at that and I'm thinking like, oh man, Anthony for a pick that's definitely going to be protected in 2028. That doesn't
Yeah.
really move the needle for
Oh,
me that
yeah.
much. I don't trust Detroit to get anything done. They're gonna find a way to bungle it even if they get some good players. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really that excited about that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I sort of feel the same way. Not necessarily, I think that they would get a pick because I think Detroit's on the up and up, but I just feel like it's borderline because like I sort of mentioned, I don't really see the clear the runway thing being a priority at this point. Maybe Simon's trade value would be even better this summer if they continue to have a good run this year.
Uh,
Um, it's tough though. I do, you know,
we're gonna keep playing that game. Maybe
I
the
know.
next trade deadline, and maybe
But
Scoot can start when he's 27, and maybe
yeah, or maybe now is the time to move
I
on
think
from him
Scoot
because
should
he's
be
starting to
starting
look
games
good.
now
But
or
yeah, I
closing
agree.
now. Closing. He's proven it to me that he should be closing. The last like 3 weeks, month, he's played fantastic in my opinion. So I think he could be closing games right now.
This is a borderline for me. It's maybe a slightly better pick or maybe some kind of an asset, some
Yeah.
kind of a young guy that's interesting, maybe, but borderline. Let's see the last one.
That's
We're
the trade value. And this one's pretty similar, but this time you're kind of getting Anthony Black as
yeah.
well, but you're shedding that second round pick just kind of to grease the wheels here. They are losing Kentavious Caldwell Pope, but they do have some other guards in place like Jalen Suggs. The Magic are in desperate need of shooting. We know it. We know they need that guy. Anthony's from Orlando. It seemed like the perfect fit for years.
I would do this one all day for the Blazers. I don't think the Magic would probably pay that high of a price though, which is it's crazy. It's
That's what
so
I'm saying.
right
It's
in
right
the
in the middle.
yeah, it's like
Tough.
somewhere in there, but like somewhere between those is probably what they could get and what I would hope that they do get.
Yeah, I similarly I would do this one too over the other, but yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
that they'd be willing to pay for it. Although maybe they're desperate enough for shooting. Who knows? Maybe we can
Maybe.
get them on that sweetheart hometown welcome home Anthony deal.
Yeah, and you might need to play around with the pick and it'd be tough to maybe get Anthony Black and the pick, but that's the thing, like are they trying to go with Paulo and does Anthony Black fit that with his skill set, or are they trying to get a guy that would be the perfect fit and is from Orlando and are they going now?
I could see it maybe, but it would be a good deal for the Blazers if they made that happen. I'd be into it.
Yeah.
Well,
Sign
Dan,
us off, Riley.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching from the logo. Make sure to join us next time when we'll be talking about any last minute deals that maybe the Blazers get involved in or other teams around the league. Thanks,
If
guys.
there's a
Bye.
trade, we will react. Bye.
Bye.